Hello and welcome back. Today we're going to be doing another tutorial in collaboration with Vadi Sound and me. I'm going to be doing a small tutorial about how to do creature sound design. Not necessarily how to do it, but a sound I'm going to design by using the sounds from the Vadi Sound Library. I won't be using any video. I'm just going to be using a bunch of sounds and I'm going to try to layer them or try to use them in a way to make some kind of interesting creature sound. And I'm gonna try to do a different approach this time. I haven't designed anything yet. I'm just gonna do it on the fly and hope that something interesting will come out of it. And yeah, if not, then I guess you just won't see this video. So I have my Reaper, an empty Reaper session here, and I have the Vadi Sound Library open side by side and me on the corner. One thing I can say right off the bat about creature design is during the time I spent working on creatures, I found that the source is really important, the source that you use. In my experience, if you're designing something else, I don't know, a sci-fi spaceship flyby or a weapon sound, a sword sound like another previous tutorial we did, or something along those lines, or a magic sound. You can use decent sounds, even bad sounds, not very high quality sounds, but you can manipulate them, process them in a way to get the desired result. But in my experience, when you work with creature design, it's so important that you have the correct source from the beginning. It's not like you start the design first and then see if you have the correct source, but make sure you have the correct source first and you have every type of variation of the source, that you can actually create an entire palette of behaviors. So for example, if you have a creature in your game that you're gonna be fighting with, if it's an enemy creature, you're gonna need a whole bunch of different behavioral sounds. For example, it's gonna need some kind of idle sounds. It's gonna need some kind of hurt, different variations of hurt. Like maybe you hit it on a weak spot in its head or in its body. You're gonna need it to be doing different types of roars, or if depending on the size of the animal, different variations of idle calls, or if they are communicating with each other, different calls for those. If it's when you kill it, it needs a dying sound. Maybe if it's running, you kill it. Maybe you need something different for that. Dying while running type of sound. You could also come up with many different types of behaviors based on what the game or the movie or whatever you're working on requires. Going back to my initial point, having the correct source from the beginning is very crucial, because one thing that I found to be the most difficult about creature sound design is making it sound like it's coming from one animal. You can easily layer certain different animals, certain different sources, and try to like glue them in a way that it blends nicely, but that is not easy to achieve. You can of course do it. It's not something impossible, obviously. A lot of people do it. You can do it as well, but it requires a lot of experience and knowledge, I think, to pull it off really well, using different sources and being able to blend them in a way that it seems one animal and not two animals playing as one animal. I don't know if that makes sense. But also, having said all of this, the project or the animal itself that you're designing the sound for, also important. The type of the animal, if it's like the size of the animal, the weight of the animal, the shape of the animal, the throat of the animal, or the mouth of the animal, the origin of it, where is it coming from, what's it doing, is it an aggressive animal, is it a predator, is it a prey, is it a friendly, or is it just a neutral, or many other parameters that can affect the sound you need to be designing, in my experience. And also the project's need is also important. Some projects, if you're working on a certain franchise and you need the sound to be in a certain way, then you could have some limitations about how you design the sound. The requirement of that project might be that you just have a really good source and you process it in a very minimal and in a certain way, whereas you could have a different project, a different franchise, a different type of creature where you need things to be sounding extremely large, extremely big, and just larger than life, and kind of like in a scary way. And also, like having said scary, the genre of the game or the project also important. Is it a horror game, or is it kind of like cartoonish, or is it family or whatever? So many parameters come into play. Just before doing any kind of sound design, the pre-production aspect of your work is just as important, in my experience, as doing the actual designing itself. Just as important, if not more important, because you could be designing something without doing the proper pre-production, and you could end up feeling lost and not having the correct source. So you could end up like wasting your time, realizing you don't have the correct source, so you have to go back to the beginning or something like that. But anyways, enough talking. Maybe I can do some actual sound work. So anyways, my original point was that when you begin to work, the thing I would recommend doing is you need to listen a lot of sound. You need to listen to all of your libraries. You need to listen to references. You need to listen to other movies, other games, make a list. You need to listen to a lot of sounds first before doing the actual work. And then when you come up with the correct source material, then you should start. But for this instance, for this tutorial's purpose, I'm just gonna try to do one sound just to give a rough idea. So I just to save a little bit time, I went ahead and did a little bit of search in the sound library already and picked out a few sounds that I thought useful for my purpose today. And I can put a little star on the side. If you go to favorites here, sounds, the ones I put little stars here, I can just drag and drop them and try to see if I can make some kind of not terrible sound. Yeah, in this sound, I'm not liking the actual bark. It just sounds like a bark, which is, a dog bark, which is not what was really interested in, but this like little growling bit that I liked more. So I'm just gonna like select that area and kind of drag and drop it into my Reaper session. I feel like that could be something. This one. This one is just cool from start to finish. I'm just gonna grab it all, put it into the session. Goat. Maybe. I'm not actually sure why I picked this out, but why not? Let's make some more tracks. Cats. Yeah, there's definitely some interesting stuff happening here. Let's grab it. Again, this part could be useful, the transient section. Why not? Again, the growling and the hissing sounds interesting. Grab that as well. These both sound cool. You can kind of select it like this and click this. These are just the sounds that I grabbed. I won't maybe use all of them, just maybe a couple, and try to do some manipulation and try to come up with some kind of sound. But anyways, like I said, searching for sound can actually be the more important aspect of the whole process. If you can think of it as 100%, maybe the 80% is searching for the right sound. You just search, listen at different animals, different materials. Maybe another tip that I could give could be like, usually there's three methods, ideas that's generally used a lot. One of them is using human voice as a source. If you have the talent to create creature-like sounds, you can record your own voice, or if you have someone you know that can do this, you can record their voice, pitch it down, pitch it up, whatever. You could use animal recordings, which is probably the most popular way to do this. Depending on the creature you're designing, you could use a whole bunch of different types of animals, lions, seals, I don't know, bears, you name it. And anything could be useful for whatever situation. The third one is different non-animal objects. It could be a door creaking sound, or an air releasing sound, or some kind of non-animal like objects that you can use, but like to make it sound like animalistic sounds. So there's usually three ways to achieve these creature type sound design. Yeah, so anyways, I'm getting maybe a bit off topic. I'll make this full screen. Let's listen to them again one by one. Again, with the, if you've seen this sword stab sound, the tutorial thing we did a while ago, you could think of creature sound design in a similar way. If we're gonna think of an aggressive, like scary creature making like some kind of roar, you could think of it as it'll have like some kind of intro part, transient part, and maybe a sustaining part where the roar happens, and then it'll kind of like has a tail where it starts fading away. You could have the similar approach. It's obviously a very different type of sound, but same approach, thought process. And this sound is like this. I'll make it a bit louder. So my immediate opinion is maybe I can put a pitch, some kind of pitch plugin to pitch it down. And it immediately sounds like a lot more scarier than it originally was. And maybe you could add, this plugin has a little distortion as well. I don't know, it could be a useful layer. There's one function I like in Reaper, the dynamic split. It's really helpful when you have a wave file with a bunch of variations, and you can just split them into individual sounds and then reposition them with like a certain amount of distance. Makes it a bit more organized. But anyways, there is some, if I copy this same plugin over here, let's see what happens. This one, I kind of like it a bit more. Could be of use. If I pitch it down, some of them are kind of similar sounds, so not necessarily, they could be used as layers if you can carefully layer them, glue them together. So let's just leave it there. I really like the hissing. I also like this little transient bit, could be useful. This one also, maybe. You could, I mean, this is obviously my way of kind of doing, I get a whole bunch of sounds that I think could be useful, and then I just go one by one and kind of like separate them, put the ones I don't necessarily love that much onto the side, keep the ones over here, and then every now and then I can keep coming back here to see if I can use something from here that I initially thought that wasn't very useful, because it happens. The growl here is like really cool. It's aggressive and has that nice threatening feeling, as you can read here. So maybe a good beginning part, possibly. I guess this is kind of similar to this first one I picked out. Yeah, maybe. Again, these are kind of similar. This would be very useful if you were doing different variations. You could pick out these sounds to have like, because in maybe not in movies but in games, variation is usually a must-have. If the creature has an attack animation and you're designing the sound for that specific animation, most of the time you would need at least 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, depending on the budget of the game or the necessity of the situation. At least 5, I would say 5 to 10, depending on those things. So it's really important. Like, I cannot stress this enough, it's really important to have the correct source, because you can design an amazing sound and you realize you don't have the correct sounds to create variation. So you end up reusing some of the same ones, but that's not necessarily a great solution. So when you have different sounding source, different variations of the source, that is a big lifesaver for you. That's already gonna make a big difference in the quality, because you'll have the same recordings, possibly done with same microphone or from the same animal, and you just have like slightly different variations of the same sound, and you'll have much better results in the end, instead of trying to cheat your way into creating variations by using pitch or volume and other type of automations. I don't know, I'm just gonna try to do something by using these ones. What will happen, I don't know. I really like the growl in this initial one. This is another trick that I use, which maybe sounds silly, but when you export all of these sounds into your session and then you kind of like have them stacked up like this in a random way, sometimes just like playing them in a weird way like this could be inspiring, and you could come up with ideas. Now, like as you so far, these are just like laid out in a random way. I didn't have any intention, but you could listen to it and it could give you an idea. It's not something great, but it could give you some kind of inspiration about how you might want to do something. So it's something I do like when I have all the source material just like laid out on multiple tracks and different types of sounds. I kind of like mute certain layers, mute certain items, and just listen to what's going on. And sometimes you get like really decent results and you're like, oh, okay, maybe these three sounds kind of work together, maybe I can reuse them. Anyway, that's like a small idea. Moving on, I'm gonna try to use this one as kind of like a beginning growl and see what happens if I just put this into the pitched low with the altar boy. It's already kind of low, so let's listen to it before and after. This is before. It's already pretty aggressive and good. Pitched down like 5 semitones with some formant. Yeah, for me it sounds great. It could be like the creature is growling and then some kind of more transient. So this on its own, I think for me it could be a useful sound. And you have like a little bit of distortion here. You could use a different distortion if you don't love this, which is, we could do it just for the sake of doing it, which I like the decapitator for this kind of situations. And you could not have the punish on, maybe turn down the drive, not have the mix so much. In my opinion, what I'm trying to achieve is make it sound like a little bit dirty and gritty, but not necessarily sound like it's a distorting sound. So just to make that a little bit more threatening than it already is. And for me, it's pretty good. And from this point on, I would like to have some kind of transient, a little popping sound. Not popping, but something more transient, and just to show we're designing some kind of attack sound. And if I can put it, maybe this could be like that. I really love the sound, but maybe we could shorten it a little bit. It's too long for what we try to achieve. It could be like this. And for this sound, I probably want it to be like really large and kind of scary or something like that. I could try to use some kind of distortion again. And the hard thing again here is for me is making things work with each other, because we're using different recordings. It could be different animals, different microphones, different recording situations. So making sure everything is working together and gelling nicely is, for me, is what's important. I'm gonna see if I can use the ending of this growl as the ending of the sound. See if that would work. And I wonder if I can do a pitch automation, pitch envelope, so that it feels like the sound is ending. Maybe. I can't say it's the most amazing sound, but it kind of works. One thing I want to do is make this even bigger if I can. I like this plugin, Sausage Fattener. Kind of a meme plugin, but I don't know, I like it. It works. It kind of like compresses it. You can also add some color, makes it, you'll see. So it makes a big change. Let's see the whole thing. Yeah, this one I'm not loving it. Obviously, I'm just doing this on the fly, so there would be, in an actual situation, you would be doing tons of iteration. It's hard to just do it. A good sound, I mean, at least for me, I gotta spend more time. Now there's like this, the transition in between doesn't feel good. I want to put a limiter here. It's fine. I mean, it's not best sound, but it's okay. I think it's getting there, kind of. I really want to use this one, but I'm not sure how. Usually, when you're designing, you should spend a lot of time just doing experimentation with the sounds you have. What if we try to use this in the transient part with the same plugins that I have here? I could try to add them on top of this and kind of try to layer these two. No, maybe delete the sausage and maybe lower it a little bit. Let's see the whole thing. Yeah, one thing I would do is, in a lot of the time when you're working on games, not in movies, but in games, the sounds, if you're designing for creatures that are not the player, the sounds would be almost always mono. You should design them in mono because they would be spatialized. If it's a 3D game, if it's like a third person or a first person or an open world game or something like that, the sound would be spatialized, so they would be playing around the player. So it's almost always better to design your sound mono, so that you'll know what it sounds like in mono. Because if you design it in stereo, it might sound wider and bigger and larger, but when you play it in the game and you make the sound 3D, it'll be a mono sound in the end. So you will lose the sound that you designed in your DAW when you play it in the game. So this will give you a better, more realistic sound that you might hear. So like it might feel like the creature is like kind of in front of you at a center place, but still a bit more realistic result in my opinion. There's some kind of phasiness. I don't know what's causing it. Is it the altar boy? I want to make this louder and this one quieter. Again, you can have like these tracks with like different processing chains linked to them, and then you can have your sources on the side, and then you can listen to them with the different chains, see what kind of result you're getting. You could have like more experimental chains to see what kind of different results you can get. There's one plugin I sometimes like to use, the vocal synth. It could be helpful. It has like you can start out with the presets and see if you can customize them in the way that you like it. Let's try Gargantua, for example, and see what this sound sounds like on Gargantua. Yeah, it's pretty weird. Or this one. The thing I like about this plugin specifically is that it has that formant quality to it. So if that's something you're trying to get in your sound, it could be a useful plugin. So let's say that's what we're trying to do, and I can add this in my sound and try to layer it in somehow to see if it'll work. I'm gonna try to edit it into the tail part, see if it works. Not the tail, but the beginning part, see if that works better. Yeah, I guess. Again, this is a very fast tutorial and I'm doing it on the fly, so I'm sorry if it's not fantastic sound design. But yeah, I just hope that something I said may be helpful for you on your adventure of designing creatures, which I think is probably one of the hardest ones. But anyways, let's hear the final result. It's a simple sound, but I guess it could be useful for a certain creature. Anyways, there's no way to end it. I can go on for hours and try to make it better. And one thing maybe you can do is you can add a compressor to glue things just a little bit. Maybe you can try using Pro C2. Yeah, maybe the distortion stuff is a tad too heavy. I can go a little easier with those. You can never be 100% satisfied with any sound you design, so it's a problem. But it's also what makes great results. So yeah, I hope that was helpful somehow to someone. And we try to do some kind of creature sound design to an imaginary creature, and hopefully there was some useful information in there for anyone that's trying to learn this type of sound design. And yeah, hope to see you in the next one. Bye.